There are a lot of Pokemon challenges in existence, from completing living dexes to all of the evolutions of the Nuzlocke, to hunting for hours just to get a Pokemon with a slightly different colour. And if I'm honest, I rarely finish these challenges I set for myself. I have a bad habit of putting the game down before the challenge is finished, or even gets the chance to come to an abrupt end. Now that you know this about me, here are 3 Pokemon challenges I set myself that I never completed. I attempted creating a living Alpha Dex in Pokemon Legends Arceus. If you've never played Pokemon Legends Arceus, Alpha Pokemon are like regular Pokemon, except bigger, scarier, and will destroy you if given the opportunity. But if you have beaten the game, or even just played it before, you know there are a ton of static Alpha spawns across Hisui. From the Obsidian Fieldlands to the Alabaster Icelands, you'll find plenty of them ready to be captured or give you a hard time. After rounding up the roughly 90 static Alpha spawns, the next question becomes, how do I get more? Well, one way is pure chance, which you'll find is the case for most ways to hunt an Alpha Pokemon. Now essentially you're in Reset Hell. Choose a map, search for an Alpha, go back to town, now re-enter the map. Now that it's reset, hope and pray that one of the Pokemon you haven't already caught gets that rare chance to spawn as an Alpha Pokemon. I do this again and again until we have every Pokemon and their evolutions. Yeah, if only it was that easy. See, not all Pokemon are simply found out in the wilds of Hisui. Some have to be knocked out of shaking trees, while others will only appear when a hole is ripped through space and time. No, literally. They're called space-time distortions, and this is where you'll hunt for a few ancient fossil Pokemon or future tech Pokemon like Porygon. Yes, there are a few tricks. Mass outbreaks give more spawns, meaning more chances for an Alpha, and if you're more lucky, you can get an Alpha outbreak. This will only occur after you've defeated or caught all the original Pokemon in the original outbreak. But an Alpha outbreak essentially puts the game on easy mode, as every Pokemon in the outbreak will be an Alpha. And if you're lucky, that Pokemon will be able to evolve into another, and you'll be able to hit 2 or even 3 birds with one outbreak. But it's RNG on RNG. And soon you'll just be begging every tree in the area to wiggle as you realise how few actually do it in one visit to any map. Sure, I made progress on this challenge. I have roughly 175 Alpha Pokemon. Some evolutions with static encounters helped pad the numbers. But to get all 242 Alpha Pokemon, minus the 20 so legendaries and mythics, that's a challenge for another day. Maybe. In Pokemon Violet, I set out to catch every shiny Paradox Pokemon, and honestly, I was on track to do it. So much so that I ended up trading duplicates to my friends because of the sheer amount of shiny Paradox Pokemon I was finding. I think my worst sandwich out of all of them gave me 2 shinies, and that only happened maybe once, maybe twice. But 2 shinies for 1 sandwich is still incredible. But then I moved on to Pokemon Scarlet. New game, new Paradox forms, new shiny hunt. And on my very first sandwich, nothing. Nada. Sandwich fail. Which isn't the worst thing, as they don't guarantee anything, and I'm sure if you've tried, you've probably had one happen to you, where you just get nothing. But considering my luck with the Violet Paradox Pokemon, it hurt a little bit, just to say the least. I told myself I'd come back later, spoilers, I still haven't, but it remains one of the simpler challenges I set myself and would love to come back to. Honestly, this was supposed to be a bridge to starting a shiny Living Dex in Generation 9 because I'd already completed a regular Living Dex. But my standard Living Dex, I ended up adding gender variants, then regional forms. At some point I was trying to collect every form of Pokemon possible, just like the motto says, to catch them all. Even though I don't have every Paradox Pokemon yet, I do have a lot of shinies already. So, new challenge alert. Now moving on to the final challenge, actually completing a Nuzlocke. I've beaten every mainline Pokemon game I've owned, so that is most of them. Sometimes with twists, Wonder Trade teams, meme builds, playing alongside with friends, but a full Nuzlocke rule set? Never. And it's not for a lack of trying. No, I'm not that bad at Pokemon. No, my issue is picking the game up after I put it back down. Since Nuzlockes are self-imposed challenges, I have a hard time seeing them through to completion, full of burnout or just simply not having something physical to show for it like a shiny Pokemon or a Living Dex. There seems to be some kind of barrier that stops me coming back and following through. If I were to ask my friends from high school, I think they would actually be surprised or swear I would have completed a Nuzlocke because we played a lot of Pokemon in school. I mean a lot. And while there is a chance I've beaten a Nuzlocke and just forgotten about it, I really don't think that's the case. Though the standard Nuzlocke isn't the only challenge I've tried, it's one I'd like to complete. As I've said, I've tried other challenges, and I've even attempted soul locks with friends, and not just one, though keep in mind the keyword there is attempted, as we usually only ever did the first play session, maybe a second if I was lucky. The best run I can remember made it to the second gym in Emerald before everything went to dust. That being said, I'd still like to get a standard Nuzlocke run under my belt, so one day I will complete a Nuzlocke. Maybe that'll be my next video. And with that, those were 3 Pokemon challenges I never completed. Maybe someday I'll return to these challenges and complete each of them. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing me complete any or all of these challenges. Maybe I'll start a new one right before I put it down and forget about it. But that's all part of what playing Pokemon's about, right? Right?